Hi, I'm Ella Orleans, and you are listening to the Viva Radio.
Some new visuals for tonight.
Yes.
Maybe you could expand on this.
I have a new set based on Dante's Inferno, and I used a few visuals which I thought would be just adequate to that. A little bit dark, and there are bits and pieces from the beginning of 20th century movies. There is Vampire. There is Italian version of Inferno from 1923. There is Jack Smith. There is a few different things, and there is juxtaposition of my self-portrait over the top of it. Because there is one song, Ghosts and Whispers, which is kind of autobiographical, but it's not really that important. But I just thought it's a little bit different from everything else, so I thought I would just have a little step back and have a little comment to everything that's going on, and then go back to the story again. It's kind of, I don't know, because I have a theater background, so I kind of like to treat everything 3D is a silly maybe description of it, but kind of I want to treat music as it's visual, and I want to treat visuals as it's musical as well. So for me it's quite important. So I lost all my files in the winter. I had lots and lots of different files, so now I just had to work really fast with this one, and I think this is just the beginning of the process. I'm going to develop this film, and this is probably the simplest version, possibly the best, and maybe it will just get worse and worse and worse, screwed up towards the end, but right now it is what it is. It's all black and white with little touches of color.
lot of things by yourself on your own, like you are soloist artist, so you do videos by yourself as well.
Yeah.
How do you do them? Do you ever film? Do you?
I still. I do videos of the videos, and then the self-portrait my friend helped me to shoot. We shoot in the studio, and it's just me pretty much staring to camera. And then there's my friend, little friend Mabel, who is playing the little girl who appears in the beginning of Inferno, who introduces everybody into hell. And so there are bits and pieces. They're not really coherent, because I only believe in concept if it doesn't bore me. Concept is a good point of exit to somewhere else, and I think it's like choosing the road. You can go by the palace, and then you can go by some shop, and then you can go by some monument, and you can meet your friends, and you can just meet people you don't like to see. And I think I treat music kind of similar. I don't really care. I think people were criticizing me in the past. It's not like a huge criticism, and it's not like I care about it too much, but I kind of see the point why some people may be a little bit confused by what I'm doing. But I just want to do things I see or I feel and just make them well enough so they just touch people somehow.
In one of your interviews, you said that in 2010 you made a decision that you want to create something you really love the rest of your life.
Yeah, I was going through cancer scare actually. I was living in New York City, and I was working 5 jobs, and they were all not very good, and they were not providing much security.
What industry jobs were they?
I was working as an artist assistant and as a sculptor in the art foundry in New York, and I was working different. I was working even as a headhunter, assistant in a big corporate advertising company. I can't say the name. And I just, I was just dealing with my problem, and I just realized, life is too short, and I cannot really spend too much time just dealing with serving somebody's idea of what I should be or shouldn't be, or what woman should be or shouldn't be. There wasn't much feminism in that at the time. I think now I'm growing more into realizing how much harder it is to be a woman in the industry or in any kind of place. It was like a big eye-opening thing as soon as I decided to work for myself. But that came a little later. But that was pretty much the starting point. I just realized, as soon as I got better, I thought, enough is enough. I think I've done my work. I cleaned enough toilets and I washed enough dishes, and that's it. I'm just gonna work for myself from now on, and I'm trying. It's a struggle, but I'm surviving.
It's great. And could you say something like advice for people who just start creating, not especially young people, just people who want to start, how to be authentic and how not to be afraid of judgment?
Well, I think everybody has to make that road themselves. I think, as I grew as an artist, I don't want to sound too full of myself, but I definitely grew over years and years of working. I just see a lot of desperation, and I find it very unattractive. But then this is my perception of being an artist. I think desperation and trying to be heard so hard, and music is not advertising. Unless you want to do music for advertising, then yes, just advertise yourself. But if you want to be an artist, I don't think you can advertise. All you can do is just work really hard. And I never stop, really. I don't know what vacations are. I don't know. It's just really, really hard work. So I love it, but it's really frustrating. It drives me crazy, and it completely rips me off from my personal life. But at the same time, this is my family. Music is my family.
This is another question I want you to ask you, is about your strict discipline. working on your own means you have to learn a lot by yourself. And
Yes.
how does your routine look? Maybe you have.
I just, it's kind of hard to be disciplined at home, but I just sit down and I actually read this one interview with Nick Cave, because he records everything at home, and he said that I can't remember when exactly he said that, but he said that he's dressing up and he goes to his studio, no pajamas, no like funny things, like not like half-ass kind of work. Everything has to be like professional. I thought it was just really great. I wasn't working full-time at the time, but because I was working other jobs, I would end up just on Sundays in my pajama, just not wasting my time on beautifying myself or anything. Just I would sit in the front of a computer. But as soon as I started to work on my own and have more time for music and music only, then I started to treat it more seriously. So there is no coming to my room, where like my living room is my studio, not bedroom. and I just get up and I go for a gym. I go to swim every day, and like obsessively, and I come back and I start working, and I work till whenever, until I collapse. I have to until sometimes I hear birds and stuff, and then everything starts again. But yeah, I didn't have that routine of like exercise as well, but it helps me a lot. Actually, I used to be like active anti-exercise person, but now I'm just really feeling like it really, really helps, especially when you're aging.
Talking about software and the computer programs, what do you use when you work?
Logic. Hello. Logic. Mainly Logic, yeah. I used to use 4-track, and then I bought Mac, and I fell in love with GarageBand, and then GarageBand was so funny and like not
Which
very.
Which year it was?
It was 2003 maybe. But before that I was in Hasselhound in a band in Scotland when I lived in Scotland, and we were recording everything to 4 tracks. And then my friend from the band, Mark Vernon, had the Cubase, and we thought, oh my god, this is just like black magic or something. Like he makes everything sound so nice and sleek. And then so but I bought a 4-track when I was leaving Scotland, and I took it with me to States actually, and I was recording a lot of things. Like I think is recorded on 4 tracks too, at least parts of it in Casio. But then I just kind of started to develop. I got mentorship at BMI in New York, and one of the conditions that I joined this group of professionals who, like, I was the only person who wasn't professional. It was for people who were going to work with film. And I got it, I think, by mistake, or maybe because I was the only woman and they just needed somebody just to, balance everything. Anyway, that's my explanation. But I had to learn Logic like in 2 weeks. So I went on blinda.com, and sounds like advertisement, but I learned from that really myself. And there wasn't really much tutorials at the time online, but now whenever I have to get into tutorials, and it's just awful. Like on YouTube, it's like you have some guy with some nasal problem and just talking about his show and talking complete utter nonsense, and then just he develops and he says little bits and pieces after 20 minutes of talking about nothing. So I've been just having this idea of like making those YouTube videos and tutorials for people like me who just...
And another question is, what is your favorite synthesizer, analog synthesizer?
Oh god, Buchla, and I just went to EMS, and it's electro music studio in Stockholm. Actually, I was working on Buchla and Serge. Actually, Serge probably is even better. It's modular synthesizer, absolutely amazing. I spent a month in Stockholm studio every day from 9 a.m. till midnight. I was a bit ill after that, but but I have lots of material, and and I'm welcome there to come back anytime. It was just absolutely amazing, and like at home, it was just really hard to come back to my little Arturia, but Logic has lots of synthesizers, so I can use that experience. But there's nothing, because I remember posting videos of working on Buchla and working on Surge, and there would be some people saying, "Oh, there's nothing you cannot find on iPad," and I was like, "No way!" It's like there's no comparison to actually standing in front of that beast, touching it, and hearing sounds of, like, as soon as you touch something and like you feel the music almost coming through. Actually, you get electric shocks as well. So it's completely different experiences. Like, I think people who just rely only and exclusively on software are just a little bit like people who only read books on iPad, or Kindle. It's a different experience to have a book in your hand and smell it. And
the emotive pop description.
Emotive pop, I think it was somebody else said that, and I thought, oh, it's actually fits. It was the same thing with music for years. There's always journalists or like people who are just passionate about music. Usually they are not journalists, they are just people who just like music or are very well educated in it, in underground kind of music.
And they labeled.
Yeah, and they don't look for some kind of easy comparisons, and I think those are the people who always come up with the best ideas of how to describe your music. So that was one, and Movies for Years was one in Poland, Movies for Years, but then Emotive Pop was one by my now friend David Macari from Pennsylvania, and he was writing for Mishka actually, and he described that as Emotive Pop, so it's just stayed.